Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be having Allison from Potty Training Consultant join us today, and I will be joining over on her community on Thursday for a little Q&A. We just, I feel like, are through most of the potty training with Reading. Hey, Daniela. Say hey in the comments. Let us know where you're joining from. But we're daytime potty trained at this point, not nighttime. We're working on naps. But I'm going to let Allison in here, and I cannot wait for her to share her wealth of knowledge. So let's see. Hey guys, thanks for joining. She's going to be popping on in just a second. I cannot wait to go over all this. This is such a hot topic. Hey girl, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Why don't you start just by telling us a little bit about you, your business, your family, and then I've got our questions written down from the community. Feel free to drop questions in the comments too, but we're gonna be kind of popping back and forth between those and the ones we got in my question box.
Perfect. Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison Jandu, and I'm the owner and founder of Potty Training Consultant. So we do exactly what it says. We consult with families with their potty training journeys, whether it be if you're just getting started and you just want some extra guidance, or if maybe you've tried before and struggled and you need a new plan, or if you have unique circumstances, if your child has special needs or disabilities or anything like that, we are here to guide you guys through the entire process and hopefully make it a little bit more manageable. I started the business almost 5 years ago after my own children potty trained, and because I've got two kids myself. Evan is now 8 and Layla is 6, and Layla actually really struggled a lot when we were potty training her because she had always had some constipation issues when she was a baby. Just made the whole pooping on the potty issue a lot more complex with her. And when I was going through it myself, I just really wasn't finding the resources and the education that I needed to get the help that I felt like, I should have had. And there's help in so many other areas of parenting that I was like, potty training is hard. This should be a thing parents can get help with also. So that was kind of when the switch flipped, and I decided to pour everything that I had into learning as much as I could about potty training so that I could be that resource for other parents, so that hopefully they didn't have to go through the same struggles that I did.
I love that. It's so valuable and so important. I love that you are doing so much to educate parents and kind of ease that overwhelm and have a point person to go to when they do feel overwhelmed, to have an actual person who can be coaching them and guiding them through it. So I saw some questions come through. This little question feature is new for me. I don't know if I should tap it, but where to even begin. Let's see. Oh gosh. Okay, wait, no, this is from my question box. This is so cool. I feel so silly that I didn't know you could do this, but we're gonna go to the, where to even begin. Give us just a flyer review. Obviously you can't walk us through every step of the process, but where would a parent even start if they're I don't know if my kid's ready, or I think they're ready, but I don't even know where to go.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's kind of one of the most popular questions, right? Is when is the right time to even start the process? How do you know it's the right time? And so, kind of the first mile marker we always look for is the age, right? So while that's not necessarily my most important factor, it is important that your child is probably at least about 18 months old. And we like to see that, and research tells us the same thing, just because from a biological and a physical standpoint, that's usually when kids are becoming more capable of, physically being able to control their bladder and their bowels at that point in time. And then right around the 2-year mark is usually where we start to see kind of the behavioral and the mental aspect kind of click into place as well, because as people who have potty trained before might understand that there is an aspect of potty training that's also mental and emotional and kind of a social aspect of it too. So So usually kind of right around the 2 year mark is a great time to think about starting. Obviously, a lot of parents, may fluctuate that a bit. They may start later on, and that's totally fine too, because like I said, I'm a mom and I understand that like real life happens. So, there's a lot of, and lifestyles are so busy nowadays. We're having new babies and, working and all that kind of stuff that it's not always possible to potty train your child right when they're 2 years old. Maybe your child isn't showing those typical readiness signs until they're a little bit older. And that's all perfectly normal and okay too. So I don't want everybody to hear 2 years old and you have a 3 or 3.5 year old child and you're like, oh my God, I totally missed the boat, like freaking out. Take a deep breath. Like, it's totally still fine. But just knowing that they're a little bit older, that does show in most cases that they are capable of being able to learn how to use the potty, even if it takes some extra guidance from you. So that is kind of when we want to get started with the process. There are some signs of readiness that you might look for. I see Daniela just asked, so perfect timing. So some signs of readiness that you can look for. I'll just kind of run through some of them. This won't be a whole comprehensive list, but the first things we like to look for is if they are able to stay dry for longer periods throughout the day. So like typically an hour or more is usually a good idea. Some kids may even start to wake up dry from their naps or even overnight sometimes. That's all a great sign that their bodies are really becoming, physiologically ready to be able to use the potty. They may start to show some awareness of things that are happening with their body by asking to have their diaper changed when they're wet or dirty, telling you that they're peeing or pooping in their diaper. Hiding to poop is kind of a big one because, that's showing that they know that they need to go before they actually do. And just maybe having like a general interest in the bathroom is kind of a popular one also, wanting to follow you in there. Flushing the toilet, putting things into the toilet, asking questions about what's happening and that kind of stuff. So if you start to notice those kind of little things, then that is a great sign that your child is becoming ready and a great time to start at least introducing the process to them.
Okay, that's super helpful. Those are some great readiness signs and good things to be kind of thinking about with their age and those readiness things. They may be ready earlier or later, but remembering that it's your specific child. And if they're not showing those signs of readiness, that's okay.
Yeah.
We want to wait for them to be able to kind of tell us physiologically and psychologically that they're like kind of ready to start that process. Because we all know that if we try to force something and they're not ready for it in some capacities, that it never goes well, right? So I wanted to ask a couple of questions. We're getting a lot of poop questions. So I know that was like the topic of our reel and, constipation. Your daughter dealt with it. My daughter dealt with it. I see it in the clinic a lot. One of the questions on pooping that we got is, what if they like start to poop in their undies and then they communicate that they need to know? Do you have any, or need to go, excuse me. Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually kind of take that as a win because there are a lot of parents out there who haven't even made it to that point yet. So take that as, as a good sign that at least they're having some awareness and some connection about what's happening with their body, even if it's a little too late, but they know, right? They know that they shouldn't be pooping in their undies, so they try to stop and go use the potty instead. That's a great thing. Something that you can do to kind of boost their awareness instead of letting it get to that point is two things. So I see this happen a lot of times in kids who are still in diapers for naps or overnight. And what can happen sometimes is there's a little bit of confusion, and it can sometimes cause a little bit of a lack of it takes a little bit longer for them to realize like, oh wait, I can't just go because I'm not wearing a diaper. I have to, stop and go use the potty first.
Yeah.
So something that can help there is to either make the switch and try to start the nighttime potty training process, or you can switch over to like a cloth diaper or training pant, which kind of helps send the more clear message that, diapers are all gone, so it's not really okay to pee and poop in your pants anymore. And that can make the expectations a little bit more clear for your child. If you have already made that switch, then something else that can help is if you're able to nail down an approximate time in which they tend to need to poop every day, because a lot of kids have like a somewhat predictable pattern when it comes to pooping, is that you can remove their pants and underwear from them altogether. And having that bottomless kind of exposed time without anything covering their bottom can help with their reaction time. So it can help just increase that level of awareness, increase the ability to feel those sensations in their bodies, and hopefully help them be able to get to the potty in time.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And this is going to lead into our next question, but like we used a book that talked about breaking it into different phases, right? Like different blocks of their readiness and their progression towards being fully potty trained. And
Mhm.
I think that was one that's so helpful as we feel like we get the bulk of potty training under our belt and then we don't want to go back. We
Right.
never want to go backwards, right? But sometimes having a hard reset and going back to those like first few days where they're naked from the waist down, and not seeing it as a regression, but seeing it as, okay, they need a reminder
Yeah.
of what is going on. So I think that's super important. And for all these questions coming through, they're so good. We're going to get to as many as we can, but also know that Allison's account is such a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure she will be happy to answer questions in messages and things like that, or direct you to her resources. She also, you have courses, right? I just feel like I should pitch that because I know we're going to get more questions than we can get to, and we're going to still get to more. But quickly, while people are asking, say, give us a little bit of insight about your resources.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, yes, I have tons of free resources over on my Instagram account. So you can hop over there and give me a follow. It's at Potty Training Consultant. Scroll through like my highlight bubbles and things like that. I've got pretty much every topic of potty training there covered. You can also send us messages. We have a whole team now of consultants all around the world that are able to provide that one-on-one support if you're looking for it. And then my online courses are also a great kind of like self-paced option if you want to learn about different aspects of potty training. So we have one that's kind of for people who need to go through the entire process, which is my 10-day potty training challenge. We have courses specific for poop training, nighttime training, and handling regressions. So a lot of really useful information there right at your fingertips. So you can check all that stuff out at the link in my bio if you're interested.
Amazing. Thank you. So what the next question I was going to say is talking about like the blocks and things like that. I think the question came from, we used Oh Crap Potty Training, the book, before I even knew about your account and all of your amazing resources. And so somebody asked, like, are there other methods other than Oh Crap Potty Training? Obviously there are. And I think that's what I love about what you shared with me is that you have several different kind of methodologies, right? Like, am I remembering that right? That you kind of give parents the ownership of, here's how you can do this. You can kind of choose your own adventure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm a big believer in there not being like a one size fits all approach to potty training, right? Like every child's going to be a little bit different, even between siblings, even between twins in a lot of cases. Like there's no two potty training journeys that look exactly the same. So they can't all be handled in the same exact way either. So I think it's helpful for parents to know that before they start, because then you don't get tied into one particular method, and if it doesn't work for you, you think that you're doing something wrong, or your child's not ready yet or something like that. So that's not necessarily the case. We like to approach potty training from a very customized perspective. So we like to try to find out as much about our families as possible. Not just the child, but the family's lifestyle, bedtimes. Do they sleep in a bed? Do they sleep in a crib? What times a day do they go to school? Like, what are their favorite foods? All these kinds of things kind of go into shaping how your potty training experience is going to go. And even in my courses, I kind of I kind of teach you how to customize the experience by still using the same basic guidelines and practical approaches that work for the most wide variety of families. But you can customize the little things to really hone in on that experience and make it as unique as possible for your child so that you do see the success that you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's super helpful. Just, I think my own experience in general with like sleep training is I got really rigid and felt like, okay, there's only one way to do this. And if it's not working, something's wrong with me or my child. And then knowing, like you said, like it's a very customized approach. Every child is so different.
Yeah.
Even having the same nurturing, etc. They're just their own little human being. And it's okay if the one thing that you were trying is not working for your kiddo. I love that you offer that and can be able to provide different ways of getting to the same outcome to help each kiddo. So let's go back to poop. I
Okay.
feel like it's such a big topic.
Such a hot topic.
Constipation or just withholding poop. You already mentioned like if they're doing diapers at nap and bedtime, that can cause some confusion, or even our kiddos are so smart, you guys. I know so many people who their kids save poop for when they know their daily routine. Like, oh, I really have to go to the bathroom, but mom is going to put this diaper on me in about an hour, and I can just let it all go and not worry about it. That toilet is scary. You have a book which we just read this week, and it's so hilarious. I'm a big proponent of book sharing for just social storying and like understanding of
Yeah.
not being scared of that process. But in addition to like reading books about poop, what would be some of your recommendations for easing any anxieties or like that withholding?
Yeah, definitely. So I think a lot of times what happens is, maybe not necessarily intentionally, but that poop sometimes gets painted in a negative light. And it's a bit of it's getting better now. But even like from when I was growing up, it was just kind of like a taboo thing. Like you didn't talk about poop. It was a very private thing. And that unintentionally kind of portrays onto our children, and they start to have this understanding that poop is very intimate. It's very private. It's not something you talk about. And then like when we're changing their diapers and stuff, and we'll be like, oh man, you are so stinky. And like, saying those little things, even as innocent as we may intend them to be, our kids are kind of internalizing that negativity and thinking of poop as being a negative thing. So it's really important that from a very early age, and there's actually been research done that shows that it helps if you start incorporating positive conversations about poop and how pooping is healthy and how everybody does it, and normalizing that aspect of it can actually end up shortening the overall amount of time that it takes your child to potty train, because you're less likely to run into those withholding issues and things like that. So that would definitely be my first recommendation: is don't be shy about talking about poop with your kids. Get them to try to realize that every animal, including humans, poop, and it's a healthy thing to do. It's just something that happens with our bodies. Sometimes talking through them in a very kind of overall way about digestion and where poop comes from can really be helpful for them to understand, and not be so scared of it can really be helpful. And also just having that empathy and having that kind of understanding that when we take their diapers away and we ask them to poop in a potty instead of in their diaper is a very different sensation. And, so instead of the poop coming out and as graphic as this is, staying up against their body in the diaper, when they poop on the potty, it comes out and falls away from their body. And some kids even relate that to part of their body falling out. So understandably, that can be very scary for some kids to deal with for the first few times. So just trying to be as understanding as possible, trying to not get frustrated, or at least not show your frustrations to your child when they might be more hesitant about pooping, can be really helpful. And just trying to keep your expectations realistic as you go through the process. The poop aspect of potty training mostly always takes longer than the pee side of things. And a lot of that has to do with there being so like far fewer opportunities for them to practice. Because if you think about it, they're peeing, whatever, 7 to 10 times per day. So that's lots of practice. They may poop once a day, twice a day sometimes. So in theory, it could take 2 to 3 times longer for them to master the poop aspect of potty training. So try not to get down on yourself if you feel like that part of it is taking longer, because most cases it does, and that's just normal, unfortunately.
That makes absolute sense. That's such a good point that they don't have as many opportunities to practice. And Allison, you'll link your book. I'll make sure to link your book and some of the books that from my bookshop I have as well on pooping, because one is called Everyone Poops. And I love it because it's like, this animal poops like this animal poops like this. Some
Yeah.
people poop on a potty, some, etc. So it's a great thing. And going to your library and just like checking out lots of books, and it doesn't just have to be that week. It can be the weeks leading up to that point, like even months in advance, just sprinkling those things in and knowing that you're laying little seeds that will, sprout good fruit for when you are potty training. So on the poop vein, from my perspective, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more on Thursday, but like movement is so important to getting GI things moving. Deep squatting play is something that's very common for toddlers around the time that they're potty training. And so really nurturing that kind of play, I think, can help too, because sometimes that's where you were talking earlier about like when you think that they might go, that could maybe be a time, like if you set up an activity where they're like doing lots of deep squatting and you can like tell that they're feeling that sensation of, oh, I kind of need to go, that we can then, turn it into this really positive thing. And I know something that I didn't do very well was letting my kids come into the bathroom whenever I was using the restroom. Kind of like you're talking about that shame and stuff. You kind of just want that more private. But then you have more than one child and you don't really have much of a choice, and they're barging in anyway. So, I think that that's super, super important what you're saying about improving the comfortability and like not feeling shameful about it, and that it can be okay. And from that sensory standpoint, being a physical therapist, I see so many kiddos with just all different on the whole spectrum of sensory sensitivities. That is a big one. Is it such an interesting sensory experience, or maybe the water splashes up and that doesn't feel comfortable. So such a good point, and such a good point to just remember that we need to take the pressure off a little bit. I think I am definitely guilty of that, of like, I think I'm appearing calm, cool, and collected, and our kids sense it from a mile away. They know when we're stressed about something. They know when we're really like wanting something to happen. So if we can just be like really even keel about it and know that they're not going to poop in their pants forever. Exactly. They will figure it out. But it may just take some more time. So let me see some of the questions. Here's a good one. What about for the kiddo who, and this is a little bit behavioral too, but I'm sure you hear this question a lot. What about the kiddo who, after you put them to bed, is constantly saying, I need to go potty, I need to go potty, and wanting you to come in and get them up and take them to the bathroom?
Oh, yeah. Kids are super smart. They figure out what works. And obviously, especially in the early phases of potty training, we don't want to necessarily discourage that, initiative to want to try to go to the bathroom. But we also can kind of manage that behavior and keep bedtime from getting too far out of control by setting some clearer boundaries so that your child knows what to expect. So in these kinds of instances, I like to use what I call a potty pass. So it can actually be like a physical thing. It can be like a little piece of paper that you print out and laminate or whatever if you want to. You can do either one or two depending on how far along your child is in the potty training process. But they have these 2 passes that they get to hold on to, and that's their 2 opportunities to use the potty during their bedtime routine. Once those opportunities are gone, once those potty passes are used up and gone, then that's it. Then it's time for bed. So obviously, depending on when your child's going to the bathroom, if they're actually going or if they're just dawdling and sitting there and not, peeing or pooping while they're sitting on the potty, you can judge as far as how many of those passes or opportunities you want to give them. But setting that clear boundary and then sticking to it will most likely kind of squash that behavior and get them to see that, oh, okay, well, this isn't really that fun. It doesn't work that much. So, but you're still also giving them the opportunity to still use the potty so that you don't feel guilty for just saying no, and then they end up wetting the bed, and it's like becomes a whole thing where they feel bad and you feel bad. So that it's still giving them the opportunity to be able to use the potty, but still within certain guidelines.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love that they would have a tangible thing to like see.
Exactly.
You have two, now you have one, now you have none.
Yes.
One of the things that I saw some people asking are like, how do you protect your furniture? How do you protect your floors or carpets or whatever when you're going through potty training? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, definitely. That can be one of the biggest like stressors that contributes to the potty training process, I feel like, is the inevitable messes that can kind of come along with it. First of all, try to keep in mind that accidents are an important, beneficial part of the learning process. So hopefully that keeps your mindset a little bit more positive when your child's having an accident, that that's actually a good thing, that every accident is a learning opportunity. But also definitely before you start, take as much precaution as possible, when protecting your home. So roll up any area rugs that may be laying around. If you have, excuse me, if you have mostly carpet in your house, you can go to the store and get like a box of 100 puppy pee pads for like $20, and you can just kind of place them all over to protect your carpets. I like to use the waterproof mattress protectors, not just for your child's mattress, but like the crib size ones. Fit really great over couch cushions too, and the elastic like keeps them in place fairly nicely so that you don't have to worry about your couch getting ruined necessarily. And just having like a lot of your favorite cleaning supplies on hand so you're not scrambling, like have a little basket that you can carry around with like paper towels, rags, your favorite stain removers and things like that, so that you can easily and quickly clean up messes. And just keep in mind that it's temporary and it's usually only a couple of days of being like that at the most. So just being as prepared as possible, I find, is most helpful.
That's helpful. Yeah, I like the trick about the crib mattress cover. I had not thought about that. And for
Yes.
us, just anecdotally, I'm not an expert, but anecdotally, we tried to kind of stick to a portion of our house that
Yes.
didn't have as many thick rugs. And then just slowing down life. I think that we're all like so busy, so overscheduled that it's hard for us to envision a day where we're literally just focusing, or a couple days, like a weekend where we're just focusing on our child and this skill. But I can tell you twice over now that anytime I started in that like really intensive kind of first couple days potty training period, to be like, well, I need to go do this. I need to go do the laundry, or I need to do these things, and losing my focus
Mm-hmm.
on my child and helping nurture that skill, then that's when the really catastrophic accidents would happen, or they would pee on something that I didn't want them to. And
Right.
that can still happen too. But I just think that's such a good reminder, is like, it's good for us to be able to, we don't have to do this often, right? There's not many opportunities in parenting where we have to like laser in on our kids and just focus on that. But I actually found it kind of a beautiful thing to be able to like have an excuse to not do all of my other things, right? Like just to focus
100%.
in and help them feel really confident, and like be able to have the margin in my day to clean it up, and me not be like in a frenzy, like scrambling, like, oh, we need to get out the door. We didn't have anything scheduled. We weren't going to birthday parties. I wasn't going to Target. Like, we were just going to hang out at home and
Mm-hmm.
work on this. And I felt like it paid off. I don't know how you feel.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I recommend. So, definitely don't want you to feel like you have to be held hostage just because you're potty training, but definitely having at least that one full first day at home where, you know, your child is in the environment where they feel the most comfortable. Maybe you're able to plan some fun activities that you guys can do together for the day so that you can really engage with them and have your focus be on them without it being stressful because you're worried about the next time that they're going to have an accident. But instead, it can be you know, like you were saying, like it can actually be a really positive, beautiful thing, like a really great bonding experience, I like to say, with your child, because it does kind of force you to slow down and take that time to reconnect and re-engage with them. And as you start to see like those little gears turning in their heads and like things starting to click into place, it's all so worthwhile, and it's like such a rewarding thing to witness. It was just like one of the reasons why I decided that I wanted to make this my career path, is because it's just such an amazing thing. And if you take away that anxiety and you take away that dread and just make it about spending that time with your child, then it kind of takes away all that negativity and it makes it that much more special. And it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to be a negative or dreadful thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to stop. I know we have a million questions we could answer. Allison, you have such great resources on your page. So I know a lot of those questions can be answered in your highlights, at the link in your bio, through all of your resources. And then we're going to be doing a live again on Thursday, talking a little bit more about like the movement aspect and constipation and how we can help our kids get through that. And so that will be hosted over on Allison's page. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you leave with nothing else, leave with what she was saying and what I was kind of trying to speak to, of like, don't dread this. It can actually be really special and an amazing time to like see little things that your child does with their face, or like how their play is that you don't normally focus on, because if they're doing those things, you're like, oh, they're playing for 5 minutes, like I got to get the dishes done.
Right.
And use it as such a special time to reconnect. They're becoming a big kid, you know, like this is such a transitional special time for them. And if we can reframe our mindset to how awesome that, like, for the next 2 days I have an easy excuse to focus just on my little one and helping them out, like it really was so special for me. And I feel like a nerd saying that, and then you told me that that's how you felt, and I'm like, I felt
Yeah.
that way, like I kind of like worked really hard, but I like loved that I was able to help them through that. So we're so glad that you guys are here with us today. This will be saved to my page, and then I'm also, just because I find it kind of hard to watch some lives, like to get to the point where you want, if you know you want to get to a specific spot, I'm going to be uploading it to my YouTube channel as well, and we'll have all of Allison's resources linked there. So thanks guys so much. Have a good day.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I'll see you on Thursday, Kaylee.
Bye.
Bye.